Knockout legends in the building. Like, comment, and subscribe. So today I'm going to talk about Ryan Garcia, and basically he has the B samples come back and he's tested positive. Surprise, surprise. But anyway, I'm going to play a clip by Pro Boxing TV, and they have analysts on the show. Pauli Malignaggi, Chris Algieri, and by Zoom call Showtime Shawn Porter. So I'm going to play the clip and then get back into it after that. So with no further ado,
into all things boxing. Of course, the big news right now, Ryan Garcia insisted that his B sample be tested for Austrian after his A sample ended up positive. Well, test came back and it's the exact same result. The B test coming in positive, just like sample number one. Of course, that's been the issue so far since his win over Devin Haney in a gigantic upset that has made him a superstar. What is his future? What does this test mean? Pauli Malignaggi, Chris Algieri, Showtime Shawn Porter joining us via Zoom. Well, his attorneys, of course, have come out with statements, and Ryan Garcia is handling it in the calm fashion we all expected him to handle it in. Hasn't even gone crazy on Twitter. His lawyers, okay, of course, released a statement that did have some legalese to it. And here it is. Ryan has voluntarily submitted to tests throughout his career, which have always shown negative results. He also tested negative multiple times leading up to the fight against Haney. All of these factors combined with his ultra-low levels from samples taken on April 19th and 20th in the billionth of a gram range point to Ryan being a victim of supplement contamination and never receiving any performance-enhancing benefit from the microscopic amounts in his system. We are certain that one of the natural supplements Ryan was using in the lead up to the fight will prove to be contaminated and are in the process of testing the supplement to determine the exact source. Okay, now Ryan himself, of course, wild tweets about leaving boxing. I take all the steroids, ha ha ha, you guys set me up. I gotta be honest with you, I only came to work today to see Pauli's shocked face. Go ahead and give it to me. Not even give me the shock face. Not even a little. Not one.
I mean, nothing shocks me in boxing. Come on, that's not really what it's about.
What are your thoughts, man?
It's about, I guess what everybody's we'll all give our thoughts. I mean, I know Chris. He actually is one of the people that explained this to me, because Chris is more so the expert on this stuff. But I've also heard it from another person in the media that had connections to a, what's those kind of doctors called? What, a lobotomist? What are they called?
Phlebotomist.
Phlebotomist, okay. So here's the way it works, and I'm sure Chris also understands, because Chris partially explained this to me as well. Here's how it works when you're microdosing. So you bigger dose off season, which is not when there's no fights and nobody's getting tested, because boxing's the Wild West and doesn't test in between fights. Yep. And then you're microdosing during camp. And when you're microdosing, it is trapped in the fat and therefore not going into your bloodstream, so therefore it's harder to catch you. When a fighter struggles to make weight, sometimes they're losing all that fat and you get a little bit of tricklage coming out of the fat, and the drugs will come out in small spurts. That's why they're always caught in small doses. And people, the moronic part of the population will say, oh, that's not enough to help him. No, that's just the part that finally leaked
It's the leftovers, essentially.
Yes, and because they struggle in weight, which is also a typical thing when you start to think about it, why guys keep moving up in weight. So there's less struggles when they're doping to make weight, and therefore they keep moving up in weight and keep showing no signs of weakening and no signs of aging and no signs of, we don't have to name names. This boxing's rife with it, But nonetheless, now when I started to learn this part, because every single time a guy fails, I'm always asking questions and I'm always learning a little bit more. And this time, when it came to this microdosing situation, it's a big way to beat even the random drug tests, because it's not going to show up unless you're really draining yourself. So therefore, it makes sense why guys keep moving up in weight. So Ryan was struggling to make the weight, and he failed right at the end. But he passed in the middle of camp. This kind of explanation is an explanation worth looking into when it comes to his failed B test, B sample. As for the lawyers, they're going to play lawyer and they're going to manipulate it as much as possible and mention that he passed those tests in the middle of camp. Well, I just explained to you in the method that microdosing work why he would have passed the tests in the middle of camp but failed at the very end. Because at the very end was when he was drained. Remember, he struggled to make weight. He was drained, and therefore the substances start coming out, which also explains why he's now talking about fighting at welterweight, junior middleweight, super middleweight against Benavidez. You also get a little bit of sense of why he would do that as well if this is the case. So once you know how the science of it works, you start to really put things together. You can reach your own conclusions. If you want to be a groupie, you can and reach no conclusions. But I'm the person who's going to keep thinking about and keep thinking about not just fighters now, like Ryan, but also fighters in the past, fighters that have failed, fighters that have not failed, and so on and so forth. Really puts a light bulb over the situation.
Yeah, Chris, what are your thoughts on the disparity between the reactions, right? We saw his lawyers, as Pauli said, a lawyerish reaction. You know, he passed these tests, it's small doses, contamination, excuses we heard a million times. And the other side of Ryan just going off the rails, yeah, I took all the steroids and I'm going to quit boxing and I already made millions. That disparity, as a fan, how do you reconcile these two reactions to the same thing?
Well, first thing first, regardless of how much was in his system, it doesn't matter. This is ostarine. It is a banned substance. It doesn't matter. It was there. This is a qualitative test, not a quantitative test. It's like being pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not. It's either in your system or it's not, and it's a banned substance. It doesn't matter how much or how little is there.
And it's banned for a reason.
And it doesn't matter whether it helped that night or not. That's not the question. The question is, was it in your system? It was. You are responsible. You're accountable for it. And his lawyers know that. What they're doing is they're setting the stage. They're playing lawyer, but they're also being smart. They're setting the stage because now the question is, was it on purpose? Because intent matters when it comes to what's going to come down in terms of his punishment. If it is an accidental dosing from taking a supplement that may have been contaminated, it's a different ruling on how long you're going to be out, how long you're going to be banned, what kind of fine you can do it. If it's proven to be on purpose, which you're actually proven guilty until proven innocent, actually. So his team now has to go and tell them this was not only tell them, but prove that this was an accidental consumption. That's up to them now. That's on there. So we're moving on. Now, just real quick, historically, to your question now, why are there such a disparity? Because people doesn't know how this stuff works. They don't know how this stuff works.
Oh, but in the comments, they're
geniuses.
Experts.
They're all experts. But listen, guys, A and B sample. This is what this is. This is why the B sample historically almost never comes out different than the A sample. It's the same sample, guys. Yeah. You're putting it in two different vials. Yeah. One of them gets tested right away, which takes a few days because of the laboratory processes. The other sample gets put in storage and waiting for something like this to happen. It's the exact same cycle.
In layman's terms, the same cup of piss.
It's the same.
You just pour some in one and you pour some in the other.
For the non-athletes, same cup of pee.
One is tested immediately. Results come in a few days or a week sometimes. The other one's put in storage for this kind of situation where it's tested again, just in case there was some kind of contamination between taking it and putting it in the vial and then separating it and putting it in the vial again. So that's what all this is for. Historically, it is almost never different, A and B samples. I think it's 99.9% of the time. I can't think of a single time that it was different.
Because it's the same cup of piss.
It's the exact same sample. So a lot of people don't understand that. So they're like, oh no, the B sample is going to be fine. No, it's going to be positive. It was positive last time, and it's also two different samples. It was before the fight and after the fight. So there's going to be contamination in sample before and after in these splits? No, absolutely not. So this is not unexpected. Now, the saga continues. What are we dealing with now? What is going to be the end result of this? And this is where his legal team and his team is going to have to show proof that this was an accidental contamination, and then you got to deal with it from there.
Showtime, you can't go back in time and erase what we all saw, which is the performance against Devin Haney, but you can call it a no contest. How does this affect the legacy moving forward of Ryan Garcia, regardless of the penalties, but our perception of him as a fighter and that fight?
You know, I probably shouldn't go here, but I'm going here, and you guys can cut it out if you want. Ryan is a Christian. I went to church last night, and there's a story that I would like for Ryan to remember or read. The story of David and Bathsheba and Uriah. The long story short, David gets Bathsheba, another man's wife, pregnant, and orders the man to be killed instead of just confessing to what he did and handling the consequences as they come and dealing with it. And it's the whole thing. But I want to give that to David, or excuse me, I want to give that to Ryan publicly, because I need him to know, like, listen, if you're a Christian, stand as a Christian at all times. Don't I'm a Christian now and then I'm blasting you with words that should never come out of anyone's mouth, let alone a Christian. You got to stand on who you are. What's going to happen is they're going to present you with, hey, the A sample and the B sample. These are your consequences. This is going to definitely have a shadow over what he did in the fight. And it's like I said before, we still cannot ignore that Devin Haney got hit multiple times in that fight. But nonetheless, we see now that there could have been something else that added to the power that added to that whipping hook that Ryan Garcia throws. And this almost, along with it being considered a no contest, a lot of people will also look at this as, yeah, you didn't really beat him, and I look forward to a rematch in this fight.
And Shawn, in terms of going back to David and Uriah, I know that story well as well with Bathsheba, David, and Uriah. And it's interesting because Ryan is trying to just sort of be sneaky with it and saying, yeah, he's being sarcastic. Yeah, I'm gonna. He's got his lawyers playing it. Well, what did David do to have Uriah killed? He didn't have Uriah directly killed. He had him put on the front lines for the next war, and the men on the front lines typically died. And he specifically desired Uriah to be put on the front line so that he would be killed, not directly, but indirectly. And what is Ryan doing? He's trying to indirectly sneak out the back door and saying, yeah, it's nothing. I didn't do anything. And he's got lawyers playing lawyer and all this other stuff. So very similar situation. Very good example, Shawn.
So from the clip there, there's a lot to unpack. Now, with the B sample coming in, there's a lot of things that have actually been ascertained. Not just that. The thing what's well to know is Pauli defers to Chris Algieri because it's Chris who actually gives him the information for what he's about to explain on the panel. And basically he's talking about microdosing. So you microdose when you're coming up to the fight, and because your body's holding fat, it doesn't come out of your system. It's when you start to lose weight, it comes out. So the test what Ryan has had leading up to obviously the Devin Haney fight, a lot of them were negative, or the amounts were that negligible that the classed as negative. So from what they're saying, maybe he was microdosing, because like when you're not fighting, you can take whatever you want. Then as soon as you know you're gonna have to be tested, you microdose, so you reduce the amount to the point where it's still in your system, unless you're going up in weight, which he wants to do, because they've explained that he wanted to fight other people at another weight, that then it comes out, so you bring up the power with that. And again, what Chris was saying as well, he has no reason to have ostarine in his system. So why has he got ostarine in his system when it's a SARM? So there is nothing really that you should be taking that has SARMs in it. That's a specific thing that you take. But anyway, there is another metabolite what was tested, that he was tested for, which was nandrolone. But that is naturally occurring in the body, and the amounts again were very negligible. So again, he possibly could be microdosing as well with that. And obviously there is the thing that he failed to make weight. So when he was reducing his weight, they said that on the day of the fight he tested positive. Then obviously after the fight, the positive is positive again. But what they explained is the A sample and the B sample is the same sample. They just split the two samples, and in the case that one of the samples gets contaminated, they've still got the B sample that will ascertain if the first one was flawed or contaminated by some external outside means, and the second sample should actually prove your innocence if that is contaminated, if that is the same thing. So anyway, with him testing positive before the fight, then testing positive after the fight, it doesn't make a difference because it's the same piss. So it's just a case of, they're just testing it again to make sure that he is positive. So he is. That's why they let the fight go on. I think it's just part of the rules that they have, and it happens with a lot of fighters. So I don't know. But anyway, on to what Shawn Porter was saying, and Shawn Porter's talking about God and being a Christian, and it's true that about Ryan, because he loves to talk about his faith, and a lot of boxers do it, Lord and Saviour Jesus Christ, and you use it as like a kind of spiritual shield and so forth to like help them in the fight, like the fighting, like it's good and evil and God's on their side and the other person's a devil kind of thing. That's the impression I get when people use that kind of mantra, because faith is a powerful thing, and if you believe in it, it can kind of actually give you inspiration and make you better than what you actually are, and give you the courage to actually do something, and give you the belief in yourself as well by believing in someone else. That so forth is the thing. But again, the analogy what he was talking about with David, and obviously David taking somebody else's wife and then putting him in the front lines to get killed, it's the same thing with Ryan, basically, you know, using his faith as an excuse to muddy the waters of what he's done. But anyway, what are your thoughts on Ryan testing dirty and him throwing as much mud to see if it sticks elsewhere, and enough confusion to say that he's not guilty? Anyway, I'm going to play another clip, and this is by Derek from More Plates No Dates, and he's going to talk about why Ryan has done what he's done, why he's used what he's used, and also his opinion on if he's guilty or not. So with no further ado.
But when you take PEDs and weigh in more than you're supposed to, like, there is a little bit of it's creating a bit of a storyline that could be used against you when it comes to trying to prove your innocence. You certainly have a lot more incentive to cheat in various ways if there was a lot of money on the line for yourself. So he bet $2 million on himself to win, apparently netting upwards of $10 million after he won.
Yeah,
There's a story of you bet $2 million on yourself.
no.
And then that all culminates in him testing positive for PEDs now, and people are wondering, was this all him by design having this constellation of like cheating essentially to win a shit ton of money and ensure winning the fight to win a bunch of money and take home the W. So he says here in a recent Twitter tirade, he did not cheat and what he thinks the reason is.
Everybody knows that I don't cheat. What can I say? You know, why didn't they come out with this before, you know, the fight? If they found it before, why would they let me step into the ring as a cheater and then come out with the victory and then they post this, you know? Again, these are people that are trying to attack me for whatever reason, but no weapon against me shall prosper. I never taken steroid. I don't even know where to get steroids at the end of the day. I barely, you know, take supplements. They're saying it's coming from the ashwagandha. That's fucking retarded. So, at the end of the day, big lies. I beat his ass. Fuck out of here. Everybody go to Warwick tonight.
So he says he's never taken a steroid, doesn't know where to get steroids. Like, obviously, it doesn't help his case a whole lot with all the factors mentioned. And he says it's the ashwagandha is what they're saying. He then goes on to say, I need more steroids. I'm addicted. Ugh. I'm find out who paid to create this lie. I'm gonna release everyone's shit. Time to expose the real snakes. I'm seen with Trump. Now I'm positive for steroids. This is a straight attack. He's for sure gay if he took steroids. Diddy paid for the drug test, allegedly. He then has a heavy-duty trolling post where he's thanking his ashwagandha root product for his victory because it helped him cheat.
Oh, so beautiful to me. Thank you for helping me beat Devin Haney, ashwagandha root. Thank you for giving me the left foot power. No rematch. No rematch. And no Diddy. Bye.
So, the guy's a heavy troll. So when you look at that product, it is, he says, my bad, I shouldn't have taken this. It is ashwagandha root, supports balanced energy and resistance to stress. If you look at the back, it is a proprietary extract. So it is not a patented extract standardized to X percentage of withanolides with a controlled procedure in terms of its creation. A lot of ashwagandha products are highly variable in their yield for withanolide content, which is ultimately the active component of it that you're looking to seek the anti-cortisol kind of anti-stress component of the product. Like that is the main attribute of its utility is ultimately to calm you down. And if you overdo it, it can actually lead to some degree of anhedonia. There's probably somebody here that can attest to the fact that if you overdo, if they, in some circumstance, overdid the ashwagandha, you almost get a feeling of draining of pleasure out of life. Everything's kind of just black and white, and you don't really feel much. Some people that are depressed want that, and there's been this TikTok trend, at least at one point it was, where you take ashwagandha to like get rid of your feelings essentially. But in responsible use, this compound, or I should say the yield from the actual parent, can actually create a very, very potent anti-stress effect. And it's also shown to enhance testosterone levels to some extent, among other things, but ultimately that's what you'd use it for. And I imagine pre-fight, when you are trying to do whatever you can naturally within the bounds of WADA guidelines in order to decompress, you know, take the stress off your mind, whatever, like ashwagandha could be something that has some level of utility. If your sleep is getting messed up because you're stressed out all night, or a myriad of reasons, like there's an infinite amount of reasons why you would want to decrease stress and enhance recovery, and it could be useful. However, when you have a proprietary extract and you're not using a patented, you know, KSM 66 or Sensoril, you know, you're taking a bigger risk than you probably needed to as a professional athlete who should really only be touching NSF, certified for sport, heavily third-party tested, patented out the wazoo products. Like the fact that he's taking a generic root that has, you know, undisclosed yield of, or it has a claim of yield, but ultimately it's not a standardized process by which this proprietary extract is created, presumably, at which point you are subject to significantly higher chance of variability in what is in this product. So it was kind of stupid of him to be using this and not a far more risk-free NSF certified for sport brand, and he's paying the price for it, potentially, unless this is all part of his scheme, because what we have seen historically, or at least what I've talked about at least a handful of times now on this channel, sometimes when people want to get away with cheating, they will find a supplement, test it, ensure that it's tainted, or find something that's tainted with something they actually want to take, and then use that as a cop-out should they actually test positive, if they messed up the pharmacokinetic assessment of how long it would take to work out of its system, out of their system, or what have you. So, for example, if you wanted to take something and you bought a bunch of products on the market and, you know, tested them all, and you found banned substances in some of them, because you will, at the end of the day, find traces of banned substances in a lot of stuff on the market. This is not uncommon. You then have a list of things you could potentially use that you would have a cop-out excuse of, oh, well, I was just taking the supplement and I didn't mean to. In reality, you kind of like knew going into it that that's why you were using it. In case you got caught, you had the cop-out ready to go. Do I think that's the case? Let's go through this and I'll give my opinion. So he says here, my levels are so low for someone who took Austrian. I was posting throughout training and none of my tests came out positive. All of a sudden I'm positive. We know what it is. He basically says he's being, you know, he's being set up essentially. And it's interesting. So all 4 tests conducted are negative, and then he has the 2 tests around the fight. Fake news. Never take a stare in my life. Beat Devin Haney fair and square. He then goes on to put Victor Conti on blast because he works with Devin Haney, which doesn't bode well for the opposite side, and creates this very interesting conspiracy theory that is unfolding here, where one of the guys who helped consult during the creation of VADA, as far as I know, was Victor Conti, because he is very prolific for, if you've heard of the Balco scandal. If you haven't, it's a very worthwhile topic to dig into, and there's a lot of documentaries that discuss it. I think there's one on Netflix right now that's actually pretty new, so probably worth watching if you're interested in the situation at all. But
so from that clip there, Derek does a deep dive into why Ryan has used what he's used. Now, it's interesting to note that he talks about numerous things, and he talks about ashwagandha, and obviously explains that the ashwagandha, because it's not a sports blend and it's not from a proprietary manufacturer, so it's not been tested properly, anything could be in it and it could be contaminated. And he also says that could have been an excuse as to why obviously he's popped dirty, but not just that, it could have been used as an excuse. So when they say, well, what have you been taking? This is what I've been taking. Oh, it's down to that. I didn't take it intentionally. I've just been taking supplements. henceforth it's an excuse to get out of the fact that you're popping dirty. And then he was talking about the weight and basically how Ryan bet on himself, that, you know, and obviously he didn't make the weight for the fight, so he'd have an unfair advantage with the weight. Also, he knew he would win the fight because he's been taking drugs. Also, he bet on himself and won 10 million, so that was the added incentive for him to cheat as well, because it doesn't really matter if he gets banned because he's made 10 million. No one's going to give you 10 million for that fight, so you doubled, you quadrupled, no, if you basically quintupled your purse and made money off your purse. Floyd's paid you fine, what you've got fined for the fight as well, and basically you're throwing mud at Devin because he's working with Victor Conte. So there's a lot of things going on. Then with all the trolling, all the Instagram posts, everything, it's just coming to a head where everything's fitting into place now, and we're seeing Ryan Garcia for who he is. So, you know, he is dirty, and the fight should be ruled a no contest. I don't even think if I was Devin Haney I'd fight him again, because there's no point, because there's a chance that he's still going to be microdosing and still have certain things in his system, and the same thing can possibly happen again anyway. So what is the point? There is no point. Do you know what I mean? You've got nothing to prove. The guy's dirty. Simple as that. You shouldn't even have fought him anyway if that was the case, because he did get hit with some really good shots, and it's just sad that because of what Devin said in the past, and because a lot of people don't like Devin, they kind of like just excuse it and think it's okay that Ryan can do what he wants, and we know what that is. But it's down to obviously the tribalism in boxing, and obviously certain flipping fighters, you know, certain complexion, then there's a certain bias towards them, and obviously that's what's carrying on. Fair enough, if people don't like Devin for what Devin said before, or him as a personality, then fair enough. But, you know, it's a bit unexcusable that Ryan, apparently being who he is and so clean cut and this, that and the other, it's all basically an oxymoron, because he's not exactly what he says he is. The things that people don't like Devin for, at least Devin wouldn't have done what he's done and carried on the way he's carried on in the lead up to the fight, and put on this show and done what he's done. You know, at least you know what you get with Devin. So like him or hate him, you know what you're getting. But with Ryan, it's just been smoke and mirrors all the way, to the point where you don't even know what's real and what's a lie anymore. And does he even believe half of what he's saying? And then all the other smoke and mirrors about the father saying, oh, he didn't have a good camp, you know, he was out partying, he was out drinking, there's this, that and the other. Possibly might be true, but at the end of the day, he still took performance enhancing drugs, and he should get banned, because it's just, you're playing with people's lives. And again, you come in overweight for the fight anyway, knowing you wouldn't make weight for the fight, knowing you were going to be heavy, knowing you were going to bet on yourself, knowing that you were taking performance enhancing drugs, knowing that you had to lose as least amount of weight possible, near to being over the limit, so the drugs can work. Because if you lose too much, then you would pop dirty, which is what happened. But anyway, what are your thoughts on all this? And do you think what Ryan has done is valid? Do you agree with the points made in the video? Do you think he's dirty? Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe. And that is another one from the one and only Knockout Legends. Peace.